Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar's bid to rally the opposition into a coalition and merger fell like a pack of cards yesterday. Governors of the People's Democratic Party (PDP), his political platform, pulled the rug from under his feet. They ruled out PDP involvement in any coalition or merger ahead of the 2027 elections. Rather, the governor said any political party or individual seeking a bigger platform is free to join the PDP.
We condemn the recent attacks in Plateau State and commiserate with the government and people of the state, especially those who lost their lives and properties during the recent mishap. Number 5, the forum resolved that working in conjunction with the National Working Committee, NWC, and other relevant organs of the party to hold a NEC meeting on the 27th of May 2025, constitute a zoning committee that will address all issues relating to zoning of the party offices and hold an early convention in August 2025, precisely on the 28th, 29th, and 30th of August in the ancient city of Kano. Number 6, the forum equally recommends the constitution of the zoning and national convention committees for ratification by NWC and NEC as follows. Zoning committee to be made up of Governor Duedri of Bayelsa State as chairman, Governor Dauda Lawal as vice chairman, and Governor Caleb Mutwang as secretary, while the national convention committee will be headed by Governor Ahmadu Fintri as chairman, Governor Ademola Adeleke as vice chairman, and Governor Peter Mba as secretary. The forum expressed its deep gratitude to the host governor, His Excellency Engineer Sheyi Makinde, the government and people of Oyo State for their unusual and good hospitality to all of us.
We're going to have a conversation around this subject matter with a journalist and development communication expert, Emeka Odom. Good evening, Emeka, and thanks for joining us on Signature Evening.
Good evening, and thanks for having me.
All right, right away, let's talk about the PDP governor's disagreement with Atiku on coalition. You remember that in not quite a distant time, we heard that the former vice president, Atiku Abubakar, who happens to be the presidential flag bearer of PDP during the 2023 election, is saying that has been going around meeting with quite a number of persons, and if I am correct, Rufai was one of them who he approached, who decamped from APC to SDP, and then before you could say Jack Robinson, every other political bigwig is aligning. Okay, not necessarily decamping or cross-carpeting, but having meetings with each other. And then a pronouncement from the former Vice President, President Atiku Abubakar, was made that there's going to be a coalition, the largest ever in Nigeria. I want to first of all ask you questions around the coalition. Are you foreseeing the same scenario that played out, that brought in APC and then as a party, and then APC to government, playing itself out again after 2015?
Okay, thank you so much. Talking about coalition and and 2027 general elections, we need to understand two things. Number one is that yes, it's very obvious and very clear to anybody that without a very strong coalition, it might not be very easy to unseat the APC, at the federal level. That is very clear to everyone. And as a matter of fact, given the kind of politics that is played here, I can confidently tell you that it takes a very strong coalition to unseat any political party that is, incumbent in office, particularly at the federal level. And that was why APC was able to utilize that in 2015. Now, talking about 2027, Is that going to happen again? The truth is that the possibility is there. And not only that the possibility is there, this time around, the coalition is going to involve the Nigerian people. As a matter of fact, I can tell you that in 2027, the election is going to be between the APC and the Nigerian people. That is the truth. And so PDP knows that very clearly, or rather those that are, are the key players, the major players know very clearly that coalition is very, very important if you're going to unseat a party like APC at the federal level. Now, having said that, the question now is the coalition getting it right? Perhaps yes. Perhaps one or two things need to be done better. If you look at the governors forum, is not an official arm of any political party, but they have become very strong and very, very, influential.
Okay. Moving on, I know you have tried to establish your own thoughts on the issue of coalition, which is the subject matter. But then again, the PDP governors, as they rose from their meeting, the recent meeting they had, they said at Oyo State, they said that they are not involved in any form of coalition as a party. I'm going to ask you again what your position is on the position of the PDP governors. About 13 of them, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, they met at Ibadan and they took that position. But we must understand a lot of things, and that is why, for me, that shouldn't be so much of a problem. Number one, understand that the politics is a matter of interest. Interest is the underlying factor. Now, these governors you're talking about, a good number of them are first-time governors. Now, being first-time governors, they really have very little problem at the state level. The state level of the party is fairly stable, apart from one or two states that are having it rough, a state like Rivers State and maybe one or two other states. The bulk of the states are calm. And so they don't have any problem there, but they probably do not need any coalition to be able to consolidate. These are first-time governors. Now, the problem is at the federal level. The party itself, as a unit, probably may not be involved in these coalition talks for a good number of obvious reasons, which we know. In the first place, the party is very, very unstable in terms of the party leadership, in terms of the National Working Committee. So, who is actually going to negotiate? Because their acting chairman, even though he's still there, a lot of people believe that he's not supposed to be there by now. That they ought to have had their National Executive Council meeting. And so once that meeting holds, it puts the process in place that will enable him to give way to a substantive chairman. So that is the case. Now, having said that, the party at the center, at the National Working Committee, is not involved in this coalition talk. So you don't expect them. And besides that, for a party to be involved in coalition or merger, the process is very clear and a bit long. And so we should have seen a lot of things happening. And that is why the governors are saying that we are not involved. And again, also, remember that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, who is pushing this coalition talk, many of the governors are probably not favorable to his candidature in 2027. These are also things we need to know. So that is the reason why they may not come out very obviously, because of the legal hurdles, because of interest, to say they are not. But by and large, you must understand that coalition is necessary to unseat APC. So if the governors are telling you that they are not party to the coalition talks, please understand that first and foremost, their interest is at stake. And at the state level, they fairly have very little problem. For instance, if you look at the Enugu state governor, for instance, you could say that the party is fairly stable here. If you look at the Plateau state governor, the party is fairly stable in Plateau. If you look at one or two other states, apart from Sheyi Makinde, Bala Mohammed, and probably one or two of them again, many of them are first-time governors who want to consolidate. So if you're talking of a major, that major could upset their position at the state level. And even though they may achieve something at the federal level, it could upset them at the state level, because coalition of this nature ought to have gone long ahead of time. And so that is why they look at it from the various perspectives, and they feel that it is far more comfortable to say we are not part of it. And very fair to them, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, who has been pushing these major talks, hasn't really carried them along. And I'm not sure that PDP, being a bigger party, can allow itself to be submerged in SDP. Of course, that is not possible. How many governors does the SDP have? A party that has about 13 governors cannot submerge itself in a smaller party. And the characters in that part in the major talks now, they are not favorably disposed to PDP because of the various challenges. Atiku himself, Atiku deep down in his mind, he may not really like what is happening in PDP, because the problems in PDP sweeps insolvent. That is where it is. The PDP problems at the federal level seems insolvent, because I can't understand why, since after 2023 general elections, they are not able to put the house in order. And that is why they are looking elsewhere. And as long as they are looking elsewhere, it's difficult to drag the governors along, because the governors themselves put together, they are bigger than where the candidate is going. So you see that contradiction and that conflict. And so the safest thing for the governors to say is that, look, we are not part of it. But they welcomed an individual who can come. You remember when Peter Obi went to Bauchi to go and see the governor of Bauchi, the governor of Bauchi opened his arms to welcome him. So that informed that clause in the communique that says that they welcome anyone who probably will want to come. But by and large, the truth of the matter is that in 2027 there will be major talks, either officially or unofficially. Without that, it will be difficult to unseat the APC.
Okay, Mr. Odom, we understand that the PDP governors have disagreed with Atiku on the coalition. Now, what do you think is going to be the fate of PDP in the upcoming 2027 presidential election?
If PDP does not take time, they may not field their candidate. That is my thinking. If they are not careful, they may not field their candidate. The reason is very obvious. Now, for them to come together to produce a presidential candidate, you know the processes from the grassroots, from the ward level to the local government area level, from the local government area level to the state level, from the state level to the federal. Now, these are processes. Remember also, with the new electoral law, with the new electoral act, by middle of 2026, the presidential candidates would have emerged. Of course, because they have to emerge at least 6 to 9 months before 6 months before the general elections. And usually we have our elections around February. So now by May, June next year, we need to know who are the frontline candidates. They should have crossed the hurdle from the ward level to the local government level. Now, with the way PDP is now, do you really think they'll be able to sort themselves out? They are yet to hold their national executive council meeting. They are yet to determine when to elect. Are they going to elect? Are they going into the presidential election processes without having a substantive national working committee? How possible can that be? So you can see that the road is long, and that is why to a certain degree, those who want to, maybe someone like Atiku Abubakar and co, they've looked at all of these things. They've looked at the road and found out that the road is very long, and that is why they're looking elsewhere. So, except if today, tomorrow, all of them really settle down, put heads together, put the past behind them, be very decisive in dealing with the issues in front of them, may be difficult for them to reconcile and have a formidable front. That's the way it is. And so that makes the party, either the coalition, because merger is much more, it has much more legal implications. Coalition can even be easier because you still maintain your identity and simply tell your supporters, look, we are going to vote for so and so. And that is just what coalition is all about. But when you talk about merger, you need to get your papers together, go to INEC, register, and all the rest of them. So these are.
So what happened in 2013 before the emergence of APC? Was it a coalition or a merger?
No, it was a major because a lot of parties came together. You remember they collapsed a lot of. If you look at ABGA, for instance, a remnant of ABGA refused to join the Rochas Okorocha clique, and so they still remained. So if a faction of it went down and collapsed ABGA, and the Muhammadu Buhari's party,
CPC at the time.
yes, at that time collapsed completely. And since that time, I'm not sure you have heard about that party again. So it was a major. When you merge, you delist yourself and now form a common front and a common umbrella, one name, one objectives, one manifesto, and you move on. So that's where it is.
Which do you think will be more formidable, a merger or a coalition? A play of words.
No, all of them can work. The only thing is that when you come under a merger, now you maintain your individual identities. The parties are still standing as independent parties. But when you come to an election, you say, look, for this particular election, all our members should vote for so and so. We are not going to field another candidate in this post because we are going to support so. Just like we had in 1999 when the APP and the AD, came together. The Obonayono candidature and Olufale candidature came together. Obonayono steps down, and all APP supporters were asked to vote for the AD candidate, which was Olufale. So that's a coalition. That's the coalition, and it could go beyond one party. It could go as many parties as possible. And we see a lot of them happen. Even it has been happening at the subnational level since all this while. So that's much easier. So and after the election, after that particular election, and everybody goes about and still maintains their own individual identity. But when you come to a merger, you collapse the structures, collapse the identity of the party, collapse everything into another one. Whether you are going to adopt the name of one of them or you are going to float a different name, a new name entirely, but it has a more rigorous, and legal process. And I'm thinking that it's easier for, a PDP to move to do a merger. They could do a merger, or as a big party, they could rally other parties together. Rally the Labour Party, rally the SDP, rally one or two other parties together and say, let us all come together. It doesn't matter, all of this can still remain as your parties. Let's vote for so and so. Let's put our vote. Now, let me give you an example. Assuming, in 2023 general election, let's say a month or 2 months to the election, the PDP and the Labour Party came together to say, look, there's going to be a coalition. Out of the two presidential candidates, one of them is going to step down and let all the votes that would have gone to the individual, presidential candidates go to one person. What do you think would have happened? So, for me, coalition is more like it. And that is what you have in parliamentary systems, where you do election and no one party is able to win majority to form a government. 1, 2, 3, 4 parties go into coalition to be able to form government. That is the way it is. Now, it doesn't mean that they will lose their identities. It doesn't mean that they will lose whatever makes them different, their ideologies, and they still maintain them. But to a certain degree, you enter into alliance. That's what it means.
Now, let's go back to the PDP governor's position. Some school of thoughts have it that these governors may secretly be working for APC government or for the benefit of President Bola Tinubu. Remember the Wike position on the whole thing, the Wike factor, that is the immediate past governor of Rivers State, the FCT minister, who belongs to PDP. PDP is his platform, but he is working with APC government. The youth administration, do you think that this is also the scenario? Remember that during the build-up to 2023 election, we found some PDP governors, Wike, for instance, and the immediate past governor of Enugu State, Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi, His Excellency, and the immediate past governor of Benue State, and one other from the Southwest, were all for the man who is campaigning at the time on the platform of APC. Are you foreseeing such a thing repeating itself this time around?
Now, naturally, like I always tell people, in politics is very difficult. Just like Shakespeare said, there's no instrument to read the construction of the mind on the face. That is very clear. So, but you must also understand that, somebody can work against his own interest. And you see, for sitting governors to work for the emergence of a presidential candidate on another platform, on another party at the national level is very dicey. Now, like I told you, the reason why I don't want to believe that it's a possibility, but the reason why I don't want to, go that way is a number of factors. One is that, like I told you earlier on, the election in 2027 is going to be between the APC and the Nigerian people. The governors are aware of this. They know clearly that, look, the Nigerian people, there's a whole lot of dissatisfaction in the Nigerian people. And so it will be difficult to convince the Nigerian people to go on a road that they probably don't find very comfortable enough. You and I know that right now APC is probably not the most popular party in terms of giving their policies, their economic policies on the Nigerian people. That is very clear. Then number two, remember the 2003 experience where a lot of Southwest governors felt, they should give President Olusegun Obasanjo the backing that he needed. Since they were not able to give it to him, the Southwest state did not give him the necessary votes in 1999. They felt that in 2023 they could give him such votes and give him a backing, so that it doesn't look as if the president didn't have his brothers behind him. But they did that, and it cost a good number of them their position. Obasanjo eventually won, but many of them lost their position, except the current president now, who was the only Southwest, AD governor that retained his seat. Now, the reason is very obvious. The Nigerian people, the level of literacy that the electorate of the Nigerian electorate have, it's yet to be up to that, that sophisticated, where you can tell them, on this, we'll go this way, on this, we'll go this way. Because these governors are still going to fly their party tickets, many of them are on the second time, are still going to fly their party tickets. And so, except if they are saying that they want to decamp, and even if they want to decamp, the APC structures in some of these places may not be, it could ruffle the situation, and many of them may decamp and lose the support of their people. So for me, I believe that they are going to contest on the same PDP, and because the PDP is fairly stable in these states. So if they now play that card of, oh, let's support Mr. President and let him, the hurricane could sweep them away. And remember also that the National Assembly is trying to amend the Electoral Act to have the elections on the other way. It used to be presidential first, National Assembly and presidential first. Then the parties now, they are trying to have it the other way. So these are things that they need to.
What will be the implication of that? That is,
now,
if the state elections happen before the national elections, what would be the implication?
Well, the implication is that it's going to change the tide of things. Before now, like I told you, the sophisticated nature of our people, their electoral behavior is still not that sophisticated. The bulk of the electorate at the rural level. So when the first election happens, there's always a bandwagon effect. And so if that happens, if you have the state or the subnational elections come first, that kind of bandwagon effect you have before will no longer be there. And it gives the governors also a certain measure of independence, and confidence to say, after all, my election is going to come first. So I don't really have to, so much stoop for me to conquer. Since my election is going to come first, I can exercise some level of independence, and confidence in saying this is the way I want to go. So it's going to affect our election, obviously. So that is why I don't think the governors are actually working, the PDP governors are actually working for the APC presidential candidate. Remember also that Bala Mohammed himself has a presidential ambition. He was also not jettisoning that. Seyi Makinde also has a presidential ambition. So as the times approach, we see how all of these things are going to melt. And remember,
are they both on their second tenure?
Yes, they're both on their second tenure. Seyi Makinde is on the second tenure, and Bala Mohammed is on the second tenure. So, and these are people who have all presidential ambition. And the coalition that Atiku Abubakar is doing, I do not think, they have been factored into the matter. So if they say they want to go for coalition, it automatically weakens their own position within the party. See, these are the dynamics. And remember that at the end of the day, interest is what defines all of these things. You lean towards where your interest lies most. These
Okay,
governors,
given the
these governors,
current political landscape, how significant is the role of the governors in shaping the direction of PDP coalition efforts compared to Atiku's leadership?
no, you see, the truth is that a lot of things are more and more being demystified. That is the truth. In fact, even the influence that, yes, the governors have a lot of influence. Let's not wish that away. We all know how the influential the governors are. They are in command and control of the various structures in the states. That is very clear. If you notice, I mean, if you recall, one of the issues that are happening in River State, the issues in contention is about who is going to be in control of the structure. Now, having said that, that is not to say that the governors themselves are, almighty in terms of this structure we are talking about. The Atiku Abaka group has also come to realize that, look, the governors do not even have the kind of power that is being ascribed to them in terms of the number of votes. Because the 2023 general election exposed all of those things. Obi never commanded, Obi never had one governor in his kitty. He never had any, and that was why people said he didn't have the structure. But a man who didn't have even one governor ended up getting about 6 point something million votes and secured 12 states. And so that is why I'm sure the Atiku Abaka coalition is looking at that to say, if this could happen, that means we can go ahead with the coalition, as all we need to do is to build a critical mass, have the Nigerian voting public behind us, and we could, what the governors can do could be whittled, that could have less influence. So that is the benefit of the 2023 general election. That's the lesson that was learned from there. That, look, as much as you value the influence of the governors, the power they wield, everything, but look, you really don't quite need them to win an election. Remember also that the Obi clique till tomorrow still feels and believes that they won the election. So these are realities. So if that is taken into consideration, it simply means that it's possible also to win an election without having the governors backing. It's a possibility. And the people we're talking about here, the people who are pushing the coalition, they probably feel also that they have the resources to be able to pull through. And what do you need the governors? The resources and the structure. So if you feel you have these two things, then you could actually call their bluff.
It's looking like without the coalition, it would be very difficult to unseat Mr. President. I mean, if that is the plan, the grand plan of the opposition parties. But now that you have mentioned Peter Obi, do you think we're going to experience that kind of wave again in 2027? Probably Obi, perhaps another candidate will rise and become that popular among the electorates.
Yes, I think it's a possibility. I think it's a possibility. In fact, the Nigerian people are far more dissatisfied right now than they were in 2023. You will agree with me. Because prior to the coming of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a lot of people, some kind of, okay, maybe they might, given what he did in Lagos State, and he could be far better than President Muhammadu Buhari, and he could lift, the country to certain levels and things like that. But now, people have seen him, and I can tell you that apart from what the power of incumbency could help to secure, in terms of performance and conviction, I can tell you that far less number of people right now are even convinced. This administration, this APC administration, will have to work extremely hard to be able to even, giving fairness, equity, justice, and fair play in election. I think they will have to work 3 times harder they did in 2023 to be able to secure the number of votes that they did in 2023. That's my thinking, because a lot of people are very, very dissatisfied. And that is why I keep saying that in the 2027 general election is going to be between the APC and the Nigerian people. And so whoever is able to, whoever is able to command the appeal of the Nigerian people may actually win the day. Whoever is able to get through to the Nigerian people, appeal, say what will appeal to them, provide that necessary ethos and connect with them, could win the day.
All right, if you're just joining us, the conversation is about the coalition which is being initiated by the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, and which the recent development has it that the PDP governors are disagreeing with him on this, and it's looking like he did not carry them along. And we're trying to establish with Emeka Odom if the coalition will actually thrive without the backing of these governors. If they are about 13, it would mean that 13 states already may not be involved in the coalition. And we begin to imagine how many other opposition parties are involved in all of this. When I say that, I mean the governors. And so we have just one LP, we have one ABGA, and we have one party, NNMP, Nigerian People's Party of Kano State. And you find out that it is just one or two, three other parties other than PDP that are currently on the opposition side, and the rest will be APC. And so, Emeka, what would that mean if all of these governors are not in? I know you said that the context that it is possible to still win elections in Nigeria, presidential elections, without the backing of the governors. But looking at the fresh situation and comparing it with what happened during 2023 election, you correctly said that the Labour Party candidate pulled all the waves even without the backing of the governors. I mean, there was no single governor in the LP as a party. What would it mean this time around if we have less than half of the state governors in support of the we have more than half of the governors for APC, and the rest of the oppositions, we do not have even all of them in support of the coalition. I know that it's only PDP governors that have spoken out, but we know also that we have fewer governors in other states that belong to a different party other than APC.
Now, there are things we need to understand. You see, this is all politics. Number one, even the PDP governors that have come out to speak. You see, it would be foolhardy for anybody to think that, look, because they came out to think that they will all abandon Atiku Abubakar. That is not going to happen. I can tell you that. Atiku Abubakar still has his friends. In fact, the members of the coalition still have their friends, even among the PDP governors. You see, what they did to you is the public. This is the official position. Many of them have their individual positions. Okay, look at someone like Umar Fintri of Adamawa State. This is an Atiku. This is Atiku. You can even call him Atiku Abakar's political godson. You think, despite what is going to be the public position, that he will, at the end of the day, he will abandon Atiku Abakar? That is number one. Remember also that it was these same PDP governors that prior to 2023 general elections, I think it was in 2022 or so, they met in Asaba and took a position that the presidential candidate, the party ticket will have to come to the south. At the end of the day, what happened? Was it not the man who hosted that meeting, Ifeanyi Okowa, that eventually became the vice president to Atiku Abubakar from the north? His neighbor in the Niger Delta, Odom Emmanuel, eventually became the DG of Atiku Abakar's presidential campaign organization. So you see, these are realities. Forget what they come out to the public and tell you. Politics is you see, when you come to politics, all sides. In fact, a paper may have two sides. You have the side, the side, this side, and the front side and the flip side. In politics, a paper will have different sides. You may not even know where the other sides are coming from, and if you are looking at it, you may not see it until when it becomes necessary for that side to show up. So you begin to ask from where did this side show up. So that's the politics for you, especially as it is played in this our clan. So, talking about supporting the coalition, many of these governors who have signed on to this, or who signed off this communique now, you may see them acting on the contrary, either covertly or overtly. That is politics for you. It's all about interest. As the time approaches, many of them are going to weigh where their interest is going to lie. That's the way it is. That's the way it
Still
is.
on PDP as a party, we understand that there's been internal squabbles in the party. It started, I wouldn't say it started with that, but most recently we had the national secretary position in contest. As a matter of fact, the matter got up to the Supreme Court before the court advised them to settle in-house. We also have the issue at some point of the national chairmanship of the party, until most recently that Damagun has to continue. And it's common knowledge that Damagu belongs in the party, in the camp of the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, who is in the APC government and is looking like he is aligning with the external forces or other parties to undermine his own political party. And like you rightly said, it is all about interest. Now, the issue now is if the PDP as a party, I mean, if the governor said they do not want to be involved in coalition, do you think that the party is united enough to front a candidate in 2027? Because it's looking like that's what Atiku saw or has seen that is making him think in the line of coalition. It's not looking like this matter will be settled anytime soon enough for them to field a candidate for 2027 election. As the major opposition party, what do you think will happen?
That's why I said for anyone who is a careful, observer and has been following events, will tell you that from the things we see, it might be very difficult for PDP to field a presidential candidate in 2027. That's what I said before, because it's very clear. The issues in front of them are many, and by July, August 2026, the presidential candidate of the party should have emerged, or at least about to emerge. And the presidential candidate does not just drop from the blues; it has to rot through the, through the ranks, from the ward level to the local government area, from the local government area to the state level. So the road is long, and the National Working Committee has to be in place to be able to engineer these processes. So I don't see that happening, and I'm sure, like you rightly pointed out, Atiku Abubakar himself probably would have seen that, and he feels that, look, and again also, that it's not even as if the problem is not because of the challenges that are there now. The problem is the bottlenecks in solving the problem and tackling the problem. That is the issue. One thing is to notice that as a challenge. The second thing is, what are the obstacles in dealing with those challenges? If you ask me, these obstacles are even bigger than the challenge itself. And probably these are the things he has seen. And he thinks that, look, the smart thing to do is to begin to build a coalition.
And so with this coalition, are you seeing an Atiku candidate, or are you seeing a Kwankwaso candidate, or El-Rufai, or even Peter Obi, who's been hobnobbing with them for 2027 if a coalition succeeds?
Yeah, that is another thing that, the coalition, that's another major hurdle that the coalition must deal with. A lot of people who have been doubting the coalition, if you look at, if you have been following the event, the ruling party and their supporters and those who speak for them have been dismissing the coalition. They are not dismissing the coalition because, the people who are pushing these coalitions are politicians of new repute. No, they are not dismissing it because these politicians are not, smart enough to know how to strategize. No, they are dismissing it because, to them, the issue of interest, who is going to fly the flag of the coalition, is going to be what will eventually, scatter the coalition. So that is a challenge to the coalition. to know that, look, everybody is expecting them to fail when they get to that point. And that is why they must have a resolve that, look, the most important thing is to build the coalition. It doesn't matter who's going to fly the ticket, even though, of course, Nigerians expect them to provide, a quality candidate. If you notice in 2014, 2013, 2014, that eventually gave rise to 2015 general elections, there were many people in the APC who wanted to be president, but they were able to subject.
And that includes the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, I think.
I beg your pardon?
I said that included the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who was at APC at the time.
In fact, Atiku Abubakar wanted to be president. Muhammad Buhari wanted to be president. Rocha Okocha wanted to be president. Kwankwaso wanted to be president. Ogbonnayan wanted to be president. There were many others that wanted to be president, but they did not allow those personal ambitions to, to distract them from the objective of dislodging the government at the center. And
why
so
then do you think that personal interest will be in the way this time around?
No. That is a challenge that many people have identified among these gladiators, and so it's now left for them to be able to organize themselves well and disappoint those who are expecting them to fail when they get to that point. Because a lot of people, particularly in the ruling party, believe that, look, these men will not be able to manage the issue of ambition, the issue of conflict of interest and ambition, but they should disappoint them. That's what I'm saying. They should disappoint them. When they get to that point, let them manage it, because the only one person can be president. And once one person emerges, other people should support that person. It's not to once one person emerges now, those who didn't emerge out of frustration and anger will now go and join the other party and work against them. The kind of thing we saw in 2023 in the PDP. That can't help anyone.
Okay, in a nutshell, Mr. Emeka, what lessons can other political parties in Nigeria learn from this particular situation regarding coalition and building internal party dynamics?
The lesson to learn there is that, look, sometimes it's good to pool your resources and your weight together to be able to achieve a common goal. You see, there's a simple analogy that is always given. When you look at a bunch of broom, if you begin to remove the broomsticks one after the other, it's as easy as ABC. Even a child can break it, but the moment you bring them together into a bunch, it becomes very difficult to be broken. And so these parties should know that individually they probably do not have what it takes to dislodge a ruling party at the center, because a ruling party at the center is no longer a mean party. It's no longer a weak party. So for you to dislodge a party of that magnitude, you need to pull all the resources you have. If the PDP and the Labour Party had been able to pull their resources together a month before the presidential election in 2023, all the votes that Atiku Abubakar got and all the votes that P2B got probably would have been able to dislodge APC from power. So that's the way it is.
All right, many thanks, Emeka Odom, for joining us on this conversation on PDP governors disagreeing with Atiku on coalition. We looked at the implication, we looked at the reasons even. Emeka Odom is a development communications expert and a public affairs analyst. Many thanks for joining us, Emeka.
Thank you so much for having me.
Save Nature TV. News in your pocket.